All right, you groovy grasshoppers. It is Thursday morning, 10 o'clock. We're getting back on schedule here with this podcast. Hope everybody's doing well. Nobody's there yet, so obviously you're doing well because I guess maybe the people that are here are doing well. That's just me, so I'm doing well. All better from the, I don't know what I had. Oh, somebody's here. Somebody is here. I know it. Let me see. So all better from the 2 weeks of pooping. Good. Actually, I felt better after went through that whole 2 weeks. It's like it cleansed my body, got all the bad stuff, a little detox, I guess. Susan Brooks, how are you doing, you magical creature, you? I see you there. I see you. Good morning. She's going to be in a Hall of Fame soon. I guess maybe there's like an overall sports Hall of Fame. Like it's a football, baseball, everybody all combined, right? Ron Jameson, how are you? Yo, Thomas. That's right. Lorraine, how are you doing? Good to see you guys. I'm just updating you on my puppitation. Thanks, Ira, for asking. All done. There's nothing better than going through 2 weeks of like Niagara Falls coming out of your butt, and all of a sudden you start having hard poops again. Man, it's like a whole new world. Mimsy, how are you? Magical creature, you. What else? We had a great event. I posted it too. It was fun. Had a great event on Monday night. We're at the Rainbow Room at Rockefeller Center. Sam Rosen, myself, Latrell Spira. I was at another event with Latrell a couple weeks ago that wanted Tao downtown. I called him Marcus Latrell. Obviously, Marcus being from the movie A Lone Survivor, retired Navy SEAL. You know, JC, if you really cared about me at all, you would know that I need to get that out. Well, not to poop, but get that out. Right? Yeah. Brendan Duffy, what's happening? My sleep expert, my personal sleep expert. How are you doing? And you know what? We need to address this. So I've always said that I understand and agree with the science behind the whole sleep thing. And Brendan is our sleep expert. But I've also taken the stance, it's not for me. You know, I need 4 hours of sleep. That's all it is. I actually think my body was saying to me, listen, you numbskull, you need to pay attention a little bit more. A little bit less tequila, maybe some more sleep. Man, because I slept. I would get up and do the videos and everything, and then my body was telling me, no, you get back to bed. So all good, though. Survived. Brendan Duffy was correct. I knew he was correct before, but all right. I got a question for everybody here. Okay. Jonah Hill. So he's the guy that kind of goes up and down with his weight, right? Like he's the actor, that kind of big guy. So he has a girlfriend, young girlfriend. Good morning, everyone. Ira Matthew. Okay, here's Tracy sucking up there, right? There she goes. She's putting on a nice person act right now. Good morning, everyone. Ira Matthew, Mimsy, and Adamson, Danny, Erickson, Barry Shelley, Lisa Lee. Have you been on this show before? Lisa Lee, how are you? Good morning to you. So Jonah Hill has a young girlfriend. And I'd like to get everybody's take on this. And in writing, in his text and everything that she decided to spread throughout the world, that he said he had a list of how he wanted his relationship to be with her. It included her not showing her butt cheeks on social media, some other guys, and all this kind of stuff. And he got roasted for doing it. I kind of thought, well, okay, men have a hard time. We're not famous for being very good communicators, or we're famous for not being very good communicators. So now he's clearly communicating, okay, here is what I want and don't want. Now, it doesn't mean you have to agree with what he wants and doesn't want, but he's saying it's very open and honest. This is what I want. And she's not being tied down and made to be in this relationship with him. She doesn't want to do what he wants from her, then she can move on. But now she's making a big deal, spreading that on. I'm sure she's trying to get some fame for herself as well. But just like everybody's take on that. And again, it's not, I agree that not everybody, especially women, are going to always agree with things that he was saying. It's just that I just thought, wow, he's being open and honest, and there's no confusion. He's not playing any games. He's telling her exactly what he wants and doesn't want. Jeez. Surprise. Here we go. Well, that's fine, but it has to be compromise. I agree totally. But I mean, that's what he's doing. He's okay. Here's what I want. Now, if you want to come back to me, tell me what you will do, won't do it, and maybe he won't budge. But then again, she can move on. I think it's being very honest. Yeah, she's a surfer and model. I think her wardrobe is butt cheek outfits. She's not a nun. I agree totally. But then they should be together, right? If that's what she needs to do for her career and everything, then that's fine. And then he says, "Well, I don't want that," so then move on. I don't know what the big deal is to me. It's like I don't think he's some bad guy. I think he's a very open and honest guy. I don't know. Maybe he is a bad guy, but in this case, I was just more like, okay, here's what I want. Now, if I'm willing to adjust things, then we will. If not, then hey, nice to meet you. Move on. Hope you have a nice life. That's my take on it. I'm sure Tracy Marie will argue with me just for the sake of arguing. Actually, had a really. We're going to do a podcast with I posted the. More importantly, let's talk about your date. Yeah, I knew this would come up. Yeah. So that was not a date. So they had 23 superstars from MSG, the venues around MSG. And this is like over 3 years of selecting these superstars. And Tracy took it that I got my picture taken with one of the superstars, actually 2 of the superstars, and assumed it was a date. It was not a date. It was just a picture taken at the event. But at the event, they had the band there. This woman, Bella, I guess she was on The Voice. So we're going to do a podcast with her. Really interesting story. Great performer, great singer, like really lively up on stage and everything like that. So it was a great event. I've never been to the Rainbow Room before. Great views. The best view of I've ever seen from a men's room. It was. I took the picture. I forgot to put it up on Instagram. I think it's on Facebook where it's a view of. I guess you can see Yankee Stadium when the lights are on and Central Park and everything. So that was from the men's room. So we're standing there washing your hands. I was thinking of you guys. I was thinking, wow, I just had a nice poop here, and then I'm staring at Central Park through the men's room. Well, not a date. Oh God. See, this is like Tracy's like she's put these limitations on it. She's stereotyping me. That's what she's doing. Yeah, you know what? That was cool. And I didn't even realize until I looked at the picture later on that Latrell Sprewell had photobombed us. That's supposed to be my job. What else does that? He got me on that one. That was good. Yeah, Sam's a great man. I'll tell you. We had a long talk about his career and he's still going strong. Like he can retire now. I don't know his finances, but clearly he has done well enough in life. But he just wants to keep going. He just have that mindset. And I agree totally that, listen, if you stop now, then you're just going to, if you stop using it, you will, if you don't use it, you will lose it. Yes. Let me see here. What was this one here? I remember. I forget this idle chit chat. What are you doing to bring in New York City treasure back home? All right, so that's a good update. So hold on, let me just see who's Lorraine. How are we doing? I don't think it's a bad thing. Not just sure about posting it and making it pop. Well, yeah, she did that, right? I mean, clearly she's looking for fame. I get it. That's not the first time that's going to happen. But yeah, so he said what he wanted. Yeah, she's now using it to. I should be careful. I don't know her, so I should not use the term that she's using it. It appears that she's, she's posting it online so everybody sees it. So, Deb, I would not do that to you. No, I would not do that. It was a very fancy men's room, though. Again, the best. I think that's the best view I've ever seen in a men's room. Usually, there's no view, right? It's like maybe my picture up there, or if I look at myself in the mirror or something. Morning leader, Dougie DeVito. How are you doing, magical creature? Tracy. Here's Tracy. Doug DeVito. Oh, God. All right, so I don't see a lot of pushback then on the whole, is it Jonas or whatever, or Fat Boy or whatever? Oh, God, Dougie, please. Good morning, Tracy. Good morning, Tracy. Oh, God. All right, so, Doug, I'd like to see your opinion on this, as a, real man, like you're a manly man, right? So Jonas Hill says exactly what he wants in a relationship. So Larry, stay focused. Good point there, you skinny bastard, you, Ira Matthew. All right, that's a compliment to you about it. I'll say, so apparently what's going on is there are some plans for the golf tournament, for the Ranger Golf Tournament that's in September. There are some kind of plans that are kind of up in the air right now. They want something special to happen for somebody who used to be with the organization. So those plans are up in the air. So until they finalize that, or those plans, they really don't know who's going to be coming or not. I mean, it's easier for me because I'm right here local. That tournament's is like 10 minutes from my house. So that can be last minute. So that's where the hang up is with Mr. Melnick and many others. It's not just with him. So, yeah. I agree. Yeah, I mean, I brought it up because it's like he was getting roasted for, I thought, being very open and honest and communicating with this young lady. Here's what I want and what I don't want. So I just thought that was interesting. I thought, but again, Tracy she'll decide I guess Tracy's going to decide what's interesting or not. Let me see here. Let me see. CC. Kudos to Chris Drury. Great signing. Yes, that was a reasonable number, right? Wasn't that in the threes, I think, or something like $3.5 million a year for 2 years? Yeah, and I think that's smart by the player too. Like, again, I think he's just going to get better and better, given that was only his 5th year playing defense overall in his whole life. So, I mean, to be as good as he is, yeah, he could have signed, maybe he couldn't, but there's the alternative to sign a longer term deal. But he said to himself, no, I'll sign another deal. I'll get 2 years down the road. I'll get better as a player. I think that's fantastic for both sides. You got a motivated player. And I don't think he's the kind of kid that's motivated by the contract anyways. I think he looks like he just wants to be a great player. So, let me see here. Let's bring Layla on. I hear that I was bringing Layla on as a new strength coach. Feed the rumor. Well, I'd love to do something like that. That'd be classic. To me, and again, I just learned so much about the mental part of it as well. Like, workouts for me now, obviously, yeah, you want to strengthen your body. But it's also the mind, right? Like forcing yourself out of your comfort zone. I'm really big on trying to put a weight on. Let's say I'm doing 12 reps, put a weight on so they get to like the 8th rep, and then your body and your mind is telling you to quit. I mean, it's your body and mind are just designed that way to protect you. But then you get to the 8th rep and it's tough to do, and you say, okay, just get 8, and then once you get the 8th one, you get the 9th. Once you get the 9th, you get the 10th. You don't worry about 12. You just worry about that next rep that you're doing. You bet you feel this, leader. So I guess that's regarding the comment that I said that Tracy will decide what's interesting or not. Okay. All right. Okay. Wally Thacker. Wally Thacker. That's a great name. Just golf 4 days with Mel. His swing is coming along. Oh, God. Can I just golfing for 4 days with Mel? They get grouchy all over you. Have to take a shower, get all the grouchy off. Let me see. I just came on and Larry was great last week. You could have easily done another hour of Mel. Yes, we're going to go back and we were talking about that yesterday. We recorded some shows yesterday. And so we're going to. So yesterday we did a Full Change podcast. Thank you for everybody listening. Again, like, share, listen, comments, please. Preferably on Apple. I mean, you guys watch what you want to watch, but help us grow it. We did a show yesterday with Ken Hitchcock. Very interesting. I've known Hitch. Just to say hello briefly, when I was representing players, I had some guys that were on his team, so we spoke, but never really got to know each other. And he was great. And I told, because I've been critical of him. I put him in the same category as Babcock, Mike Keenan, and him with like kind of the, I guess called mind games. But in fairness to him, like he was very open and honest. He said, "Listen, I've made mistakes in the past. I did not appreciate the players enough. I realize now that the grind to try to win all the time." I did things. He didn't say he necessarily would change things. So he even said, listen, his job was to create chaos. He felt that, if the game wasn't going well, he didn't want to give up on the game. And his way was to create some chaos, get people mad. If they get mad at him, that's fine. He can handle it. He's got tough skin and everything. So I was really impressed by him. Again, I don't know if I totally agree with all that stuff, but after talking to him, like it wasn't just this random, it didn't seem to be just this random ranting on the bench or in the locker room. Like, and he even talked about knowing when to not even go in the locker room. He said that in all his years of coaching, like 20 some years of coaching pro, that he'd only went in the locker room after the game, like maybe 10 times. He realized that's the players' locker room. Like he was great. He talked about how the practice, it was his practice, that's okay. And everybody needed to do what he wanted them to do in practice. Come game time, obviously you got to give the guys the latitude to go do it, be creative and everything, but he was fantastic. But he did say, listen, it's the players' locker room. And coaches need to understand that. So, you know what, Deb? We're going to do that. We're going to set up a store. It's pretty easy to do, really. I've done that before with True Good Life, where you go to these manufacturers, so you can have hats and whatever, mugs and T-shirts, and they don't manufacture it. Once it's ordered, then they manufacture it and ship it out and everything. So it's easy for us to do. We'll get that done. Okay. Jack Gotsy's hired his team nutritionist. Yeah, there you go. Sure. Yeah. Have been an agent. What's your opinion on the Tarasenko move, getting a new representative like that? Well, that's happened. It happens a lot more now than we hear about. I think we talked about this last week. I don't know all the details why. I've heard some rumors. Actually, one of our viewers here was on last week talking about, he heard the story that he actually wanted to come back to the Rangers for less money than what he was getting offered in Carolina, I think it was. And obviously that may have been the difference between him and the agent. And typically, if the player's got a really strong relationship with that agent, that kind of stuff shouldn't separate them. But again, it's business, and I told that when I represented my players that I became pretty good friends with most of my guys. But I said, listen, if you feel like I'm not doing the job or it's not going the direction you want, and as much as I won't like it personally or professionally, you need to move on to another agent then. I've got my way of doing things, and I really believe in my way of doing things. But if it doesn't work for you, and that happened at the end of my career as an agent, Brad Boucher, Brad Berard, all moved on to other agents. And again, I didn't like it, but that's the way it was. And I was both those guys, I was really close to them too. So, yeah, that's, again, right now, the problem right now is that, like some of the stuff the agents are doing, like, buying guys' cars and all that kind of stuff. That's a problem. You should be switching to an agent that is really going to do a great job for you. Tarasenko did switch to Pat Brisson, who I think is one of the top agents in the business. Great guy too, very honorable. Knows the market, a hardworking guy. So I think he made a good choice there. So Larry's good. He opened up a bit. Yeah, he opened up. Yeah, Larry's really good. Yeah, he also enjoyed. Yeah, Rich Pilon. That was an amazing. I did not anticipate that podcast with Rich Pilon was going to go the way it did. I knew that he had that car accident years ago, but he opened up and talked about the attempted suicide and what he's doing now. Wow, man, he's powerful. Like, it's funny because he really spoke well and everything too. Like, there's one point during the podcast, Tom, can I just keep going? I said, yes, we want to hear you. Don't want to hear me. I hear myself enough. So, are you doing Shares Run Long on? I have not been invited to that yet. I have done it, I think like 2 of the last 3 years or whatever. I love that. A great event. The sheriff out there, him and I have become close. We follow each other on Instagram, I think it is. Does a lot of great stuff in the community. That is a fun event. It's a little bit of a hike. That's out near Tracy too. Oh yeah, that's right too. Because here we go. So I think it was last year. I said, Tracy, listen, I'm going to be out there near you. She said, I have to stay home. I have to rearrange my sock drawer. That's pretty much it wasn't exactly those words, but basically that's what it was. Let me see. Well, got to go to work. Who's this? Dougie V's got to go to work. Oh, you too, Tracy. Oh God. Okay. I feel that Mike Rogers gets screwed over by Herb Brooks. Well, listen, that's the way it is with a lot of coaches. And it's been like a guy like Herb was definitely either you were one of his guys or you weren't. And like for me, I was one of his guys. So he took care of me totally. I did what he wanted me to do as a player and a leader on the team. And he was great to me. But yeah, he was, I mean, the same way with Ted Sater. At first, I was one of his guys, and then he was also the guy that sent Mike Rogers and Nick Fotiu to Hartford, sent Pierre Luce to Hershey, sent Glenn Hanlon to Adirondack. He just jettisoned those guys, and that was to prove a point. But those guys were not his guys, and so it happens like that with coach to coach. And if you're not on one of his guys, so gotta go. Deb, what? Deb, gotta go. Oh my God. All right. Let me see here. Tom, at your age, we'll just take that with a grain of salt. I assume you do less weight and more reps, more training and endurance. I saw you and Tom Smith on another podcast, and you still jack like Nikki. Yeah. Oh, thank you very much for the compliment. I don't lift as heavily as I used to, but lifting heavy under control is really good for you. Like as you get older, if you don't work your tendons like that with heavier weights, then it starts to deteriorate in your body. There's many others, it isn't just your tendons, but it's so yeah, I really do believe, yes. I was deadlifting, 10 years ago, I was deadlifting like 500 pounds, which was pretty good. Now, I guess my max is probably like 350, 375, something like that. So yeah, you want to be careful, but again, it's also, working your stabilizer muscles, your core, and all that, and that's something I've got better at. I didn't do that before at all. So, let's see here. What does Deb have? Oh my God, no, it wasn't. It was wash my hair, watch paint dry. Yeah, see, yeah, there you go. I knew it. Yeah. And then she complains that I've only got like time available from 12 to 1 o'clock. Let me see here. They dedicated a statue to Mark Pavlich of the Rants. Saw Bubba posted. Very really took up his guts. Yes. Yep. That's fantastic. And just your work. Listen, I think it's incredible. I have total respect for Barry, even if it wasn't because of the Mark Pavich thing. His teammates, his friends, I total respect for him. I just want to be clear. I just, sometimes things came out in the past there with Barry and him and I had talked about it, that he took the approach, and I think he realized now that he was not correct in this, that the alumni, the NHL, the Player Association, and everybody in the game really doesn't help other alumni, which is totally false. But typically, and this is, and again, it's, I'm not blaming Barry for this, but it's done very privately and quietly. Like if a guy needs help financially, if you got an alcohol issue, drug issue, whatever, either another former player or the team or the alumni or all of the above will step forward. Then that's what happened with Barry. When he came here for the golf tournament last year, he was in tough shape. And the team, individuals, a whole bunch of us really, and again, I had a couple of phone calls with him. It was a very minor role. And the alumni, everybody stepped forward and really took care of Barry. And he's much better now. So, and the reason I bring that up, I don't want to make it look like, that was an isolated case where people jumping in and helping Pav. It was great that people helped Pav, but it happens a lot. The NHL community does. I mean, like a guy like Glenn Sather, and I won't talk about individual cases. There's probably more than I've heard about, but he'll step up and help people financially, and not just the financial part of it, but really like taking care of the person. But again, it's always done behind the scenes. There's some of the stuff that I've heard about that he's done, and that's one example. So it happens a lot around the league with the NHL. So, well, okay, Tracy, we really got to get together. Meeting the minds, right? I mean, what's this going to be? Is it going to be constant bickering? Am I going to like leave there feeling like, man, what have I done? So I have to have a little chat. Let me see here. Rogers or Maruck. It's amazing how great players lose their confidence, how it affects the play at the highest level. Yeah, lose the confidence. Amazing. Your mind. Oh, totally. Isn't that true? I hear people say sometimes, he's making $10 million a year. How can he lose his confidence? The money's got nothing to do with it. And the success you had in the past has got nothing to do with it either. I should be careful there. You can draw from the success you have in the past to say, listen, I know I can do it. But yeah, it happens. There's sometimes to me when I was playing, I would come with a puck coming on my zone, and I'd be able to pinpoint a pass 30 feet away, put it right where I want it, right in that player's stick. So other times, I'm coming up and going, geez, I hope I get close to this guy. And that's the problem, right? You start doubting yourself. And again, if I was to play again, that would be the biggest thing that I've learned now about the mental health side of it. About how you build your confidence, get yourself out of your comfort zone. One of the biggest, it's repetitive. It's just doing it over and over, like getting to practice. I learned that more in the agent business where guys, geez, I got no confidence. I said, well, you got to get to practice early and you got to practice things like breaking out of your zone. If you're a defensive like I was, and all your job is to put that pass on the forwards tape, then go out and practice for 20 minutes by yourself. Put a cone out there and pass to the cone and then come out after and stick count more. And one of the big things to me was killing penalties, and it's tough sometimes because people are trying to clear the puck out of your zone, and they know you are, and they shoot it up the board, so they're trying to block the boards. Well, if you can master the art of flipping it up high in the air on your backhand and your forehand, backhand's even tougher, obviously. Then you're way ahead of the game. So I would go out to practice early and just get a bucket of pucks by myself. I would look like an idiot, what are you doing? I just backhanded the puck up in the air as high as I could. Because if you don't do it right, then obviously it gets picked off and they've got an opportunity to score a goal. So it's something that that kind of stuff. For me, that was the thing. For it's a goal scorer, it's getting out there, shooting pucks, shoot pucks. Then when you're done, it's like you can't fool yourself, right? If you've done the work, then deep down inside, I've done the work and I know I can do this because I've done the work, right? So let me see here. You're a catch. He should take you. Danny, geez, we'll discuss things. We'll discuss. Stop it. Okay, there, she's back at it again. Ha! It was like a ha, or is it ha ha ha? Stop, you brat. Oh, God. See, here we go. That's going to be the treatment. That's my concern. Brat. Bubba lost his son in the Pav, and he always seemed like a sensitive man to me, very thoughtful, and that might have hurt him. Yeah. And Bubba went through a terrible time. They're losing his son and the whole Pav incident. There's no question. Yeah, Bubba was, listen, I put it this way. So they go to the finals of 79. And that team was like tight team. People talk about the guys that played on that team. And then they go and trade 5 players for Barrie. So imagine you walk into that locker room the next season where that same team had gone to the finals, and now they removed 5 of their like beloved teammates, and those were like character guys, like was it She-Cat or whatever, and guys like Pat Hickey and all those guys. And now you walk in the locker room and like, okay, where did our 5 teammates go that we went to the finals with? That's not Barrie's fault. But imagine you have to be strong. And again, he was captain, power play, penalty killing, regular shift. You could keep him out there for the whole game. He could do everything. Physical guy, tough. There's just like at that time, it was like to be a player like him. That was like the expectations. Shoot the puck, Barrie. He never, to me, I never saw him being flustered by all that. That he just went and did a good job of just going to play, and never like he didn't try to do everything. He did. I mean, he could do everything, but he just tried to play within his game. So yeah, that had to be hard. And then he retired early, came back and played in LA, and it just wasn't the same player anymore. But yeah, that I mean, I'm trying to imagine myself walking into that locker room after they've gone to the semifinals with those. Now those 5 guys are gone, and you walk in, okay, you better do everything. The expectation is that you're going to win the cup now, which they did not do. So. But again, that was not Barrie. Let me see. It's a great question, Ira. I've had some thought about that. I guess I was kind of like that Dan Girardi kind of guy, right? When I played, wasn't he making like $5 million or something like that in the end of his career? So in that $4 or $5 million range, yeah. The ex-wives would have loved that. Let's get divorced sooner, so I can get my hands on that money. That's good. I know I've said this before. People do say like, aren't you're disappointed you didn't make the money that players make today? First wife would have got half. Second wife would have got half of the other half. So yeah, that was my retirement plan: get married and divorced twice. So let's see here. So has the NHL teams added a confidence piece to development of young players? Great question, Barry. Brian, sorry. They do more. Actually, a former teammate of mine is in charge of player development for one team and contacted me. Would come and make a presentation at their camp in September, I believe. Yeah. There's more of it. I think it's, again, this is my take on it. I think it's more of a thing that they do in training camp where they have presentations and everything. Again, my belief is something that should be done throughout the year because there's always the ups and downs, especially like going into the playoffs. I just think so much of the game is mental. Listen, you've got the skill. Like again, you if you come to the NHL, you show that you can play and be a consistent player, and then all of a sudden now you don't do it. You think, okay, well, you can do it because you've done it before, so that's easier to draw. But okay, why are you losing your confidence, right? And again, if it's just okay, you're going to lose your confidence. It's just part of it. You're going to make mistakes, and that is the great thing about it too. Like a game of hockey, you are going to make mistakes. There's no question about it. Bad things are going to happen. You have bad bounces, referees calls. I watched the Game 5 of the '84 playoff series with the Islanders, and I was out there against Bossy, and the puck came to us, and he was right on top of me, so I said, I'm getting rid of this, and I would do the same thing over again. Unfortunately, it bounced and hit his skate, and then he went past me, went in and scored. And it was a 3-2 game, so that was an important goal. At that time, I think we were up 1-0 or whatever, so they tied it, made it 1-1. But that kind of stuff is going to happen. I remember that because I thought that was the first period. So, man, I can't be dwelling on that. I don't like it. I felt confident I would do the same thing over again. It was just a bad bounce, but yeah, I can't dwell on that. I gotta get going. Barry Shelley. What? It's just he just got on the show. We're 28 minutes into the show. Ah, man. Well, we missed, of course, Tracy belittling me, like wanting to go to the wedding, but belittling me about my decision-making process. So I guess really nothing new, Barry, I guess is a short answer. Just the way it goes. Let me see here. I was excited when we acquired Bubba, and I expected meaner Larry Robinson, and he was good, but not no. Bubba had amazing power with either hand. Yeah, great. Bubba was, and you're right. He was that similar, I think the impact he could have was similar. It wasn't exactly the same player, but the impact that he could have was similar to what Larry Robinson had in the game. So, yeah, I mean, he wasn't to that level, but that, in my mind, this is Bobby Orr. You know what? I'm not just he's an Islander. No, I should be careful. I mean, I've watched a few tapes. I guess, the danger is when you watch tapes, like I'm talking about Dennis Potvin, Did you see the players make mistakes? And that's going to happen. It just, same thing with Ray Bork. Watching, if you really, like, as an offensive, if you really pick his game apart, so he wasn't perfect. But no, again, like you said, no player was. So, Tracy Marie. I think that wasn't that the 83, 84 season at the end of it, because they call it the 84 playoffs. I'm pretty sure that was 83. Or not to argue with you, Tracy, because of course you're always right. Or if you're not right, then I'll just admit that you are. Or try to say that you are, so I don't get reprimanded. So, let me see here. Tom, remember when back to get games, Bubba cut Dave Lewis and Jim? Oh yeah, Bubba was like, you watch him fight, like he could just flip guys around and like that, get him down, boom. Hit him one time, the guy's bleeding. Like that punch on Rick Chartres in the for my first year, the 80-81 playoffs. Man, he cut him open wide. That was, and Charlie came a teammate of ours too. He's a great guy. I talked to him a few years ago. He was a good man, funny guy, really good team player. But man, he Bubba smoked on that one. Good. I'm glad you got it out of your system, Barry. See, and I like the fact that you're open to talk about it. Like I think some people, get that approach that I'm going to just drop this call. Some people get the approach you can't talk. Like, Jonah Hill wants to talk about his business. Everybody reprimands him. I think it's important, Barry, that you're willing to talk about your stuff. Tracy's a young one. Well, oh yeah, that's right. So 7. I missed that. She's clearly telling us how old she was there. That she wanted that to get that out there. Good catch by you, Barry. Did you watch Joy Chester win the Nathan's dog eating contest? Remind you of watching any form. Don't. I'm not going to bring up Kotze in this. That's not right. No, the dog. Listen, we need to take a stand here. Eating those hot dogs is like smoking cigarettes. It's like terrible for you. They clog the arteries, for God's sakes. Okay, 7th grade. So that would make her 12 years old in 84, 85. So back it up. So let's go 84. So that's 74. So 72. She was born in 72. Huh. So that means she's in her 50s now. Oh, wow. Yeah, that's good catch by you, Barry. That was very clearly, okay, here, I'm not going to tell you exactly how old I am, but here you guys can figure it out now. Oh, that's something. Wow. Yeah. Kotze the dog eater. He eats a real dog. Okay. So let's just be creative. So 72. So Tracy was born either 72 or 73. So let's go with 73. So that means so she's 50 right now. Woo. Wow. Angriest you ever saw. Wow. While playing, what player was the angriest you ever saw? The player? I would say Scott Stevens. Scott Stevens had the ability to snap. And I just got to show it. I knew that was coming. I knew some comment like that. Like 84, 85, they gave us 2 different years there. So, okay. 51. Oh, my goodness. What was it? June. Oh, just turned 51. Oh. Sorry about that. I'm just kidding. I would say Barry, Scott Stevens. So it's particularly one night, we're obviously with the Rangers and we're in Washington, and Thomas Sandstrom did something to Scott Stevens. I don't know what it was. And I turn around and they're about to drop the gloves. And I'm thinking, I can't let this happen. Scott Stevens is going to kill Thomas. He doesn't fight. Strong guy like that. So I thought, oh God. So I had to jump in and I jumped on Stevens and I got thrown out of the game, 3rd man in. But even after that, they separated and everything, and Stevens was just livid, going nuts. He got thrown out of the game more for after the stuff he was doing because he couldn't settle down. His teammates were stepping in. It's a funny video to watch it. We're all like watching him. We're all circled around Thomas and thinking, this guy, if he gets to Thomas now, it's just never going to end. So I think that would be the meanest I ever saw any player. But let me see here. Where's everybody going? Like I changed around my whole life just to do this show. Deb's leaving, Barry's late, pooping. Man, I'm left for Tracy by myself. Have a meeting. See you Monday at Mark Putvick show. We'll fire my assistant for scheduling something during Larry Malik show. Well, okay. If you guys have to go, I guess you have to go. Yeah. He could snap anyways. But this particular night, man, it was funny. Because I jumped on him and And the linesman knew what I was doing. I wasn't jumping on him to beat the crap out of him. He's a tough guy anyways, but just there's more to save Thomas. And that was, I think, may have been like his first year in the league. So his English wasn't that good. I remember Anders Hedberg and Jan Eriksson, the other Swedes, came to me after the game on the bus and said, thanks, Tommy, for doing that. That was pretty funny. Let me see here. The old timers talk about Arbor being a great shot blocker and the welts on his legs. Yeah, I mean, he just couldn't help it. Even if it, like a guy with a really hard shot, I can't remember who it was one night. It was at the Garden. I'll forget that. He went right in the shin pads. Thinking, okay, I'll be fine. Came in after the game and it split my shin bone. So I had to get stitches on my shin bone because just like the pressure going through the plastic on the shin pad pushed it right back in my shin and just split the shin wide open. So it was all blood all over. And it's funny because I knew I'd gotten hit. So I thought, well, at least I'm going to have a bruise there. But, the sharp bone right there. So it just split it wide open. That was funny too. I don't know why I did this. It was just, I'd be smart. Doctor says, well, I'm going to freeze it up. I said, no, doc, let's try it without freezing it. And the guys are all, she said, what are you doing, you idiot? Freeze it. I remember doing that. I don't know why. It was like this. I was sitting there having a beer or whatever. Come on, doc. I had a couple of beers already. Yeah, it must have been because I had a couple of beers already after the game. Got down to the point. I didn't know my shin was cut open. So let's give this a try. Doctor's looking at me like, what is wrong with you? I'll be here today. I know, Barry. I know. I'm sorry. I jumped on. I guess my emotions got the best of me there. I jumped on you. I apologize. But yeah, lots of bruises. I tell the story too about my Ray Bork story. It was in Boston. I think it was my rookie year. Yeah, it was my rookie year. And we're killing the penalty, and he gets the puck at the point, and I think it was like a 5-on-3 because there was no forward out high. I was more back towards the goal. He goes to shoot it, and I go down on one knee. And then when you go down on one knee, the danger is though that the knee you go down on, your shin pad, your pants come up. And there's like a 3 or 4 inch gap between your shin pad and your pants. He hit me right on that spot, and he could shoot the puck hard. It bounced off my leg up into the stands, so they had to blow the whistle. So it was burning. But you can't show, like, especially as a young player, like you're proving yourself. Like if he knew that he hurt me, he would, he'd think that I was going to get it out of the way. So you get the sweat going even more because it's burning. Face-off happens again, goes back to him. Same exact play. Exactly. Shoots it again, goes right off my same spot. Now I'm already burning on that spot. I guess probably couldn't make it any worse, but it was still burning. It bounced over the stands again. He's looking at me, and I know he's looking. I'm not going to look at him. I'm just skating around like there's nothing wrong. And there's all those times like you have to show, okay, this is what I'm made of. So now he knew that I wasn't going to back down. I wasn't going to, get out of the way of the shot. So probably hit me again though after I get over. Lucky the food poisoning 2 weeks wasn't during Survivor. The ocean would be named. Oh God, yes, man, that would be like remember they had that oil leak years ago. It would have been all over, and that was nasty. You know what though? After I was done, I felt like, wow, that was good. Like I've never done a cleanse before, but I really felt like that's what it was. You got all the toxins and everything out of your body. There was nothing left inside. It was like a total restart. Okay, we're cleaning everything. Like my body said to me, okay, you idiot, we're cleaning everything out, getting all the tequila out of your system, and try it again. Let's see here. Guess you can't blame your hemorrhoids on blocking shots with your butt. I don't get hemorrhoids, Barry. What's wrong with you? Oh yeah. You know what? Once you played for a while, I did a show. I did a podcast with Terry Ryan. He's got a great podcast up in Canada. He's on that show, Shoresy. Is it Shoresy or whatever up in Canada? I had represented, I worked with IMG. We represented him. Tough little kid, played for the Montreal Canadiens. Had a shorter career because of the injuries and everything. But he talked about that too, and it's true. It never, some injury, an old injury I have, never really goes away sometimes. In fact, as you get older, it comes up more. Like, my broken wrist get more sore now. But again, exercise is a big part of it, diet and everything too. But you never really get, you're going to play. And again, stuff getting hurt way back and you're a kid, injuries and stuff. So never really goes away. But the equipment back then was a whole, yes. So when I first turned pro, a few guys, I think Barry Beck was like this, Duguay, myself, we didn't wear shoulder pads. We just wore the caps on the shoulder pads, and we actually attached them to the our suspenders on our pants. So we just sit there. So there's no front or back on the shirt because it really is like cloth. Like it was padded cloth. It was like a quarter of an inch thick. So it really it more got in the way than anything. Our elbow pads were soft. The gloves were, Gloves were different. They were longer gloves because you was getting slashed all the time and everything. So yeah, the equipment is a lot different now. Hating the Flyers or ex-Flyers. Tom, thank you for punching out Greg Adams and Norm Barnes. Yeah, I remember that fight. That was a good one. Because at that point, the younger guys coming up, I fought more like in probably my first 3 or 4 years in the league, and then especially with Herbie, it wasn't like he told me not to fight, but I want you on the ice, so I just didn't fight as much. So you could tell he didn't realize I could fight Adams. That he was mouthing off, and it was during a brawl. I think Ken Linsman and Vad were going at it. And what are you going to do? What are you going to do? And I was insulted. Like, the kid didn't know that I could fight at all. So, yeah, dropped it pretty good. That was funny. That was good. And Norm Barnes, I was more mad at myself because I sent a sucker pass up the middle, I think, to Anders Hedberg, and Barnes kind of hit him behind the boards. And that was early in my career, too. So not everybody knew that I could fight. And it was a pretty good scrap. He was a smaller guy, but tough dude, yeah. Let me see. Yeah. Do you see the video of Igor and Sorokin? Yes. What were they pushing something? Pushing your car? Yes. Like something. Yeah. Yeah, I love that stuff. Those are good workouts, right? Because it's like your whole body workout. It's a challenge, like moving the car. Flipping tires like that. Flipping tires is great exercise for your whole body. Oh man, it burns too, like your forearms when you're done. Just because you're working everything, right? You got to do it properly. Yeah, that's pushing the car. Thanks, Susan. That's right. I would do something like that. Still trying to cleanse all the beers from years ago. Oh, I'll tell you what. It seriously. I really think my body. Okay, so I've got my mind and my body have this relationship, right? So my body kind of says, "Okay, I'll let you push me to the point where I probably shouldn't let you push me." You think you're the smart guy. They talk about my body talking to my mind. But at some point, you're going to push too far, and I'm going to shut it down. And I think that's exactly what happened. I just said, okay, that's it. You're not listening. We're going to clean the mechanism. And the body cleaned out the mechanism. Let me see. Here we go. Hold on. Get that up there again. I'm not a doctor, but common sense would say don't drink alcohol with a stomach bug. Well, I agree with that. I wasn't drinking alcohol with a stomach bug. Jeez. See, communication. Listen, communication is a two-way street. It's the person talking. It's also the person listening, right? Carol Vadney. Oh, he was a nasty dude. Oh man, he taught me some stuff. Like front of the net, like Tommy, you go to the front of the net. Anything goes. You do whatever you want. And I saw him do stuff to guys, man. And he would pretend that he was falling down. I saw one time with Paul Holmgren in Spectrum. And he pretended Homer was already down on the ice, and that would pretend that he fell down. But he gave him like the elbow, like the wrestling elbow, like the elbow comes down as he's falling down. And I was watching it because I was, Matt and I got to be pretty close, so I always watched him a lot because I loved the way he played. He was always trying to help me, and he was nasty. Yeah, he didn't fight as much then, but didn't back down from anybody. But man, the stick and the spearing and the elbows. You don't talk about being in the Canadian Living too much. Yeah. You don't tell me how much did I pick your after that? So everybody knows the story, right? There's like 40, 45 guys left trying out for the 1980 Canadian Olympic team. In that winter before Christmas, they sent us, half of us went over to Europe. I was in that group, traveled around for a couple of weeks, I think it was. Czechoslovakia, Paris, Germany, I think some other places. And then the half stayed around North America, traveled around and played. And then in the summer, we all got together and we were going to have like the final training camp where they picked the final team. And we were staying in a construction trailer on the parking lot. Decided that night to go out and have a few beverages with a couple of guys who also made it to the National Hockey Day. They went to bed. We came back to the trailer and we decided to put the furniture on top of the trainer's car. I do not know why. And then they went to bed and I decided to wake the trainer up and tell him that. So we woke up the next morning, and then Father Bauer, who ran Hockey Canada, sent me home. He gave me a plane ticket right in front of everybody else. Sent a perfect message. Okay, this is what we're not going to do. And I gave him exactly what he needed. It ended up being one of the best things that ever happened to me. It's strange to say that, but I realized how badly I'd messed up. I'd already been drafted by the Rangers. And that's great. They're going to think I'm just a complete idiot. But maybe did anyways. But so maybe go back. My senior year of college. I had been a decent leader as far as work ethic, but as far as like getting up and addressing the team and really being like a much more professional leader, I just hadn't matured at that point. In my senior year, I have to do everything possible. And I wasn't a good enough player to just be a good player. I had to have that team be successful. And again, I would be careful when I say this too. It wasn't just me that had the team be successful. Great coaching staff, Rick Comley, Steve Weeks was our goaltender, Don Waddell, Bill Joyce, we had a great team, like a real team. And we ended up being ranked number 1 in the country the second half of the season. Ultimately lost to North Dakota, who had been number 1 in the country the first half of the season. We lost to them in the final game. But it made me focus much more and say, okay, you idiot, look what you've done. And ultimately, signed a contract with the Rangers and went to New Haven for the playoffs at the end of the year. Next year, made the Rangers. And again, I was cruising along. Even our team was just kind of cruising along. And again, I'm going to be really careful when I say this. I had this speech I made, 5 games into the season, which was huge for me. It was the first time I really got up in front of everybody and, had a real composed, someone got a little emotional after a while, but like a real passionate speech that made sense. It wasn't just standing up and saying F this and F that. So yeah, it was, again, I don't recommend people. That's the one thing I've learned too. People say you learn from mistakes. Well, for me, the thing I learned from my mistakes was I could recover from anything. That's how I viewed things. I'm not saying this is right either. I think you should learn and not make the same mistakes over and over. But I can tell you, I was lucky to play with guys like Larry Robinson and Wayne Gretzky in particular at the end of my career. And they would make, Larry Robinson, he'd come around the back of the net in our own zone and fire the puck right up the middle of the ice to try to get a breakaway pass. But sometimes that puck would get picked off and another team would go and score. So you could look at that as a mistake. But he looked at it that, no, that's what I do. I'll live with the results if they're bad results at one time, but I'm going to do it again. And he would come right back and do it again. So he wasn't wanting to learn from a mistake. He said, no, I'm just going to do it harder. I'll do it better. I'm still going to make the same play because the flip side of that is I'll send somebody in a breakaway. Maybe 1 time out of 10, it's not going to work and they'll score on us and everybody's booing a whole bit, but I'm strong enough to get past that. So I like that mentality. If you really think if you're really doing what you think is right for your team, then yeah, go for it. Okay. Yes, Tracy, we're aware that tequila is alcohol, but I wasn't drinking when I was puking and diarrhea and everything like that. Okay. Jesus. Murphy. Tom, would you agree that Wally Harris was the best fight referee? I think he decided deck one punch and then challenged Baxter to the bench. Oh yeah, I saw that. Yeah. Well, there's a lot of guys like that back then where I say, okay, you guys want to settle it, go ahead. But yeah, Wally Harris was definitely like that. I mean, that was a different time too. They didn't over referee. I mean, let's play, you watch those old games, the Islander Ranger games, and, the hooking and holding, but it was just, it was consistent. You knew that that's going to be the way. So if you went too far, they took away scoring chance, whatever they're going to call it. But man, it was war out there. Yeah, it was. I watched the old that Game 5 recently. I saw it, and it was man, that was great hockey. It was just, it's totally different hockey than today. We really have to change our game to be able to play today, and the players of today would have to change their game to play back then. It's a different game. It's not better or worse. It's just a whole different game. So, let me see. Come on, Tracy. You should have had more H's. Duh. Oh, yeah. Kevin Collins is famous for wanting to get in and break up fights. It's just his thing. Great guy. He was really good. Yeah. Just jerk. Let's go, boy. Let the boys go. Yeah. Well, he wasn't a jerk. He's a guy. I can see where you want if you like the fighting. He wasn't a jerk, but yeah, his thing was he was famous for that. He wanted to get in, break up the fights. But yeah, most of the times back then it was okay. You guys want to go. And the referee, the linesmen were really good too. They made sure nobody, they tried their best to make sure nobody got hurt. Like if somebody started losing the fight, they'd jump in, some guy go down or whatever. Let's see. Yeah. Good morning, Tony Long. How are you doing? We're going to be here for a short period of time. Get that, Tony Long. He's going to be here for a short period of time. Do you ever feel that Kevin Collins always tried to break it? Well, yeah. Again, based on back then, that was who he was. He would break up a fight early. It's hard to say too soon because that's just who he was. It was consistent. Whenever there was a fight and he was there, he'd jump in and try to break it up right away. He didn't give the guys a chance to go at it. And again, everybody was different. The players were different. Referees were different. Linesmen were different. So that was his thing. And again, we all knew it. It wasn't like he would just do it sometimes with some people. That's who he was. What else? I was going to ask you guys something else. I can't remember what it was about. Something thinking in the news. I got this is. I'm not making a statement about politics as much here, and I'm not trying to be critical, but there's some funny videos out there about Biden making speeches and everything. Some of the stuff he says, that people put stuff together. Very interesting. Very interesting. What else? We got that swim coming up August 19th. Did you swim across the Hudson with the Navy SEALs? Jackie DiPiazza is getting married the next weekend, the 26th. That'd be a fun event. I just sent in my RSVP. What is going on too? There's something else I need to mention. Oh, yeah. So our Full Change podcast going well. I'm really enjoying it. Like I said, I had Ken Hitchcock on. That was a really good one. We've had Bruce McDonald as an owner. We had Ken Hitchcock as a coach. We're going to try to get some general managers on. And Kenny Hall and I, we haven't spoken to each other that much, but we get to be pretty close. Try to get him on. We had Neil Smith on. That's right too. Yeah. And some interesting stuff. It's interesting listening to guys like Ken Hitchcock. Again, I really didn't know him before that much. I knew of him and we'd spoken before, but really close. But it was really interesting listening to him. I had to be honest with him. I said, listen, I've been critical of guys like you and Babcock and Mike Keenan. And then we went through talking about his logic about creating chaos and trying to get, didn't want to give up on a game. So he, stir the pot on the bench and everything. So it was really interesting to listen to talk why he did things. And I had always thought it was like, he just like an ego thing. He just did things because he wanted to be the center of attention. But in talking to him, there's a logic to all the stuff he did. He knew that he needed to stay out of the locker room as much as possible, all those things, especially, if you have the right team, the right leaders. So it was a great interview. Really enjoyed it. Let me see. Yeah. Was your referee lines we just crack up with what there's a few of them. Ray Scampanella was one guy. Oh man, good guy. Funny. I've told this over and over, but we were in Toronto and Mark Osborne, who I'd played with before in New York, was in Toronto at the time, and Eddie Olchuk. Something happened, puck went over the boards, whatever, and everybody's arguing, they're trying to reason with Scampy. And Mark Osborne, a very religious man. Eddie Olchuk, a very respected, seemed very professional player. So they were really honorable guys, right? And so Scampy finally turns to me, he goes, so Tommy, what happened? So I told him what happened, obviously our version of what happened. He goes, well, that's it. Tommy doesn't lie, so let's go. And Osborne and Olchuk are looking like, what are you talking about? Like, so we're lying? And Scampy just skated away. And I was standing there looking at those two guys. So it's pretty funny. There's other guys who do stuff too, but Scampy was one of the guys who really stood out. Who was the big guy? Ron Asseltine. He was a good guy too. But they were all back then. There's very few guys you look back at and go, what a jerk he was. Scampy was one guy that really stood out. He just was a fun-loving guy. Good lines too. Like, you really talk to. Like he'd really listen. And there's sometimes, Tom, I just didn't see it that way. I'm sorry. So yeah. Oh yeah. Speaking of Chadwick, our time Scampanella. Scampy. Who's the guy? Pat DePuzzo, too, local guy. He's a fun guy, too. He got hurt. Didn't he get hit in the face or something late in his career? When you interviewed Larry, he mentioned his birthday, which is like mine in February, and it just posted. Are the interviews around 4 or 5 months before they post? We did Larry's show, not 4 to 5 months. I'd say 2 or 3 months, typically. We've done about 55 shows, and we don't necessarily... if we've done one, like I think Pierre Luce was the first one that we aired, I don't think he was necessarily the first one that we interviewed. It's just we'll pick, okay, what is a good show to have up now? So it could be one that was a month ago or 2 months ago. It's kind of random that way. So, yeah, let's start with to drop the bucket. That was hilarious. Well, it wasn't hilarious at the time. I was mad at the time because I totally screwed up, and he was. It's actually funny because you look back and see like when he had a good relationship because he knew that he could do that to me. If we didn't know each other, I would be a jerk or whatever. It was funny. He's a good guy too. He's really very thoughtful person. Kerry Fraser. So like talking about like he really tried to take into account like the person too that he was refereeing. Like if something happened, he'd think of them as a person, not just an athlete. So he's good. And you know what? You could really tell that too when he was out there. A Seder full change would be interesting. That might be. That would be cool. You know what I learned with Ken Hitchcock too? Yeah, like I've been very critical of Ted Seder. And I'd like to have him on and say, listen, Ted, I have been very critical. Let's go through some of the stuff and what's your rationale? Like, sending those guys, those really good teammates, like Rogers and Fatiou and Hanlon, LaRouche, to the minors, and the way he did it, they sent them to different places that weren't even in the Rangers organization. So, yeah, that'd be a great interview to have. I'd love to do that. Yeah. Let's see if there's an ex team that went into coaching or management that you were surprised they went to that route. Oh, wow. Surprised that they went to. Well, a guy like Larry Melnick, and not just because we're buddies, but we do so much, but he comes to mind because he was such a, and he admits it too, he was such a team guy. It wasn't like he was anti-management, but it was all his team, and that's why he was successful. I mean, this utmost compliment to him. He didn't make it because of his skill level. He made it because of his heart and his being a team player and everything. So, he'd be one guy to come to mind. I can't wait to hear Murder, Don Murdoch. Happy to hear his life. Sad a guy like Steve Durbano as an example. Didn't be like Don Murdoch get his act together. Durbano had talent. Sad. Yeah, and Don Murdoch, when you hear the interview, we may have to redo that one because the connection was not that good. I hope we can edit it properly to get it out. But yeah, he was very open and honest and not blaming anybody else. But back then the game was so different. Any demons you had inside or any issues, mental health issues, whatever, you did not talk to anybody. You didn't talk to your best friend, your best teammate, nothing. You kept it to yourself. Now the players have so many resources to go and talk to. Again, the stigma that back then, if you had some mental health issue, people were just going to stay away from it, right? That was a death blow. I guess if you're a good enough player like he was as a goal scorer, maybe he could have got away with it. But again, that's a sign of the times too. It's not just sports; it's everybody is in that category. It's so much. And still, listen, we have a long way to go still to get better, but it's much easier to open up and talk about it. So, yeah. Have you ever thought of opening a hockey camp? Yes, I've worked at camps before and enjoyed doing that. If I was to do it again now, there'd be much more of a focus on the mental part of the game. It would still be the physical part of the game, but much more like teaching the kids about, again, fighting through things and getting out of their comfort zone and realizing you could do things that maybe you thought at first you couldn't do. I mean, that happens naturally as you're coaching the players. They can't do something at first, and then as the week goes on or whatever, now all of a sudden they can do it at the end of the week, and they're like, wow. But I would point that out more and more like focus on, okay, building stronger people, not just the hockey players. And then you become a better hockey player if you build a stronger person. So, let me see. Mel Bridgen was an educated man. I was shocked by his life today. Very sad. So people that don't know, I guess it's out there enough now that I'll speak to it. But apparently he's living under a bridge someplace in L.A. They saw him there. And then it was back when Ron Hextall was with the Kings. And he'd played, I think they played together, must have played together in Philly. So they went out to him and asked him, listen, we'll get you any kind of help you want. What's going on? And he said, nope, I just want to stay here. So I don't know the details. It didn't appear that there's something wrong. He wanted to, I guess everything got to him. I had a kid that I coached, well, a kid now he's in his early 30s, same age as my oldest son. And he'd worked on Wall Street, and he just all of a sudden sold everything. He said, and bought a truck and camper and everything. Now he's living out in Utah someplace. But there's nothing wrong with him. He didn't want to deal with all the stuff here anymore. So yeah. If I had a camp, I know Chase would. If he had a camp, I know Chase would go to it. Yeah, you know what you do? You stand there at the sideboards, just criticizing everything I do, right? Like, why are you doing that? Right? That's what it would be. I read in Race, Campanello's autobiography that he never tied his skates. He wore them very tight and just pulled up the laces and tucked them in. Oh, wow. Oh, I didn't know that. Let me see here. I always heard that Shiro was the most silent. Did you? Oh, silent. Yeah. He talked to myself, Kotze, and Eddie Hosper one time and told us, without telling us, that he wanted us to be big, tough guys, right? He said, you're not going to play the first 5 minutes of each game. You're not going to play the last 5 minutes of each game. I'm not telling you to fight, but you're all 6'2", 215 pounds. What do you think you can do to help the team? I think that's the only thing he ever said to me. Yeah. But it wasn't, that's just was the way. And that's the old school way. It was, he speak to us as a group, telling us the lineup and everything, and who's going on the ice. But as far as anything else, nope, nothing else. And it was fine. I mean, obviously they won the Stanley Cup there in Philly with him coaching. He was really big on this, and the players got to go play. And that is ultimately that's the truth. I mean, you got to have coaches, yes. And the game's changed now, individual coaches and all that kind of stuff, and individual skill coaches. But at the end of the day, players have to go play. Like with Gallant getting fired, Jerry Gallant was the same guy that took the team to the semifinals 2 years ago. The players just didn't play, and that partly the coach has to take part of the blame. If he's going to get part of the credit, he's going to take part of the blame. But yeah, it's. I love the Murdoch and Dugan late story, and Gene and Talbot saying Murder and Dugan are gone. They should show up. Talbot says, yeah. Yeah, it's when you back then, especially you're talented enough, you can get away with a lot of stuff. Ray Scampanello. I knew what you meant. Well, maybe I didn't. Let me see here. I've been kind of hot mic, like what happened in the fire. I saw that. I heard that. Boomer was talking about this morning. I was listening to him. And that's the only reason I knew about it. What they say, like, why are you here? Because the Flyers suck. Something like that. So I don't think I was ever caught on a hot mic. I had a couple of things. So when I get back from Survivor, we'd signed a long document saying they, non-disclosure. We couldn't talk about anything until they told us it was time to talk about it. So I had this young kid, can't remember, somebody hooked me up with him. He was a new reporter for the Atlantic. Was it the Atlantic? Is that? And he kept, can we just do the interview now and they'll hold it? And I knew better. I don't know why I gave into it, but I gave in and said, yes, you can. And it's stupid because it's a young guy. He's trying to make a name for himself. So then when Survivor came out and announced that I was on the show, I didn't give him authorization. He just went ahead and posted the story and told a lot of details. The guy had told himself, I said, listen, you can't use this right now. Again, but it told him I didn't know the guy. It's a young kid trying to make a name. So he posted it. As I saw it, I had to call people at Survivor and say, listen, this is totally my fault. It ultimately wasn't a big deal because I got voted out so early. It was not that big of a deal. But, I was just, I dealt with the media for decades. I did have a time where I was on the show with Bloomberg. It was during a lockout in the second lockout. So, this guy was I can't remember, a tennis guy or whatever that was doing the interview. He did not realize he was talking on an open mic. He says, I love dealing with these athletes, a bunch of meatheads, and talking about me. He didn't know I could hear it. The producer knew what was going on, and you could tell in his voice, he's like, okay, your mic is open. And there's part of me, I was kind of laughing about it, part of me, but the other part was like, I'd like to zing him right now, but this is at the start of we haven't even done the interview yet. So I'm thinking, okay, if I zing him now, it's going to be a pretty awkward interview. So let me see. CCC, Barry Shelley, but do most of the assistants during the game go over plays and talk to play? Yeah, I actually had a conversation with Dave Maloney about this one time. He says, yeah, like the head coach ends up being kind of like the general contractor more. I mean, he's still talking to the players, but it's the individual coaches, like the skill coaches and everything. You look on a bench now between the trainers and the coaches, there's like 10 people on the bench in the suits and everything. So totally different than, when I started. So, someone started questioning how many times a female reporter is going to ask the same effing question. It didn't say effing. Yeah. Yep, people do some silly things. Hey, listen, like I said, I'm making mistakes myself, especially when you've done it for so long. I tell the story about, Susan's brother. We told the story at an event, Larry. And I got total respect for Larry Brooks too. Just like he with Larry Brooks, if he'll carve anybody, and I mean that in a very positive way. If he has something that he wants to say that's negative, he doesn't care who it is. He's consistent with that. And I was getting Brian Berard signed to a contract here after he'd hurt his eye. And I'd said to Larry, and I've known Larry for years, and I know who Larry is. And I mean this in a very positive way. You don't talk to Larry pretending like he's your friend and you're just telling something as a friend. When you talk to Larry, it's business. So what you say to Larry, he's going to write down if he wants to write it down. There's some guys that I know. I mean, Kevin Allen and I were better friends, and I knew there's certain things I would say to him. I said, Kevin, this is kind of off the record. With Larry, you don't do that, and he's like that with everybody, and I totally respect it. It wasn't like he was picking and choosing. So I made a comment. So Brian had the option to sign with Toronto again or being with the Rangers. And at that time, Toronto was a real strong organization. The Rangers had a younger team. I think it came into all the details. And I made the comment that Toronto was a lot closer to winning the Stanley Cup than the Rangers were. Now, I believe that to be accurate, but that was very, especially as a former Ranger, making that comment. And Larry wrote that in the paper. Glenn Sather was the GM. Don Maloney was assistant GM. And once I saw this, they're not going to like this. So I called Don up right away. I said, And he was kind of fun. He was kind of giving it to me a little bit too. So you better call Glenn, explain that. So I did. And Glenn, he wasn't overly upset, but listen, Glenn, I'm not going to tell you I was misquoted or taken out of context. That's exactly what I said. I should not have said it that way. And then it wasn't much. I mean, I'm admitting that I was wrong, so it wasn't much you could do about it at that point. But yeah. Let's see here. What we got? JD Sam, big boy. The boys were boys as he laughed. Oh yeah. JD was good. Danny, I'm not even putting that up there. I'll put it up briefly. When Archie Bunker said, "Where's the meathead?" He was saying, "That's terrible." It was reported that you didn't have any respect for. Man. I don't really think so. I guess I'd answer the other way. The guy had probably, again, in different ways. So Oscar with Larry Brooks, I have total respect for him because, again, he's consistent. This is what Larry's all about. And he would even talk about how, like, if he ripped into somebody next day, even if he didn't have to be, he would make sure he was at the rink in the locker room facing that player. He didn't want to be ducking and hiding, waiting for things to cool down. This is the way he was. He was on. He really, what he said, he believed. He didn't plant stories for certain reasons. Obviously, I became great friends with Kevin Allen. Total respect for him. And Frank Brown was another guy that I really respected. Wrote for the Daily News back then, I think it was. Ultimately worked for the National Hockey League. But you know why? He was a great guy. But again, he was really friendly with us too. Like it was a real personal relationship. But probably my second year, I wasn't playing well, and he ripped me. Wrote an article talking about how I wasn't prepared, and I would see him every day, and I pouted. I bet you I pouted for 2 or 3 weeks like a little baby. And he finally came to me and said, "Tom, listen, I have to write. I know we're friends, but I have to write what I think is the truth. You're not playing well." And I'll never forget. I looked at him like, I guess he's right. I'm really not. And then we were even tighter after that. So, yeah. Let me see here. What was the event you had this past week in the Rainbow? You didn't see many hockey players there. Yeah, it was just myself, Latrell Sprewell, and Sam Rosen were there. Hold on 1 second here. So it's a great event. So the Madison Square Garden has fantastic. So all their employees at all their different venues. So it's MSG. I don't know what places they have. They're all around the country. So they have these all-star awards like every 3 months, and they have a nice fancy dinner for them. Present them with an award. Then I think every year it's the next level, like the stars, whatever it is. And then every 3 years, and I think this is the first time it's happened, they have these superstar awards, which was Monday night. It's really not awards. These people are obviously, all the 23 people that are there are already been awarded. They know they've been awarded. It's more like a celebration for them. And so they bring them together at the Rainbow Room. So it's a big thing to them, right? These are hardworking people, like maybe working in bartenders or security, all the different levels, all the different jobs. They get all dressed up and everything, having fun. And they had a band going. Actually, we're going to do a podcast with a young woman, Bella. She was on The Voice. Great performer, pretty girl, great singer. Really gets into the music and everything. So it's really kind of celebration. So it's a big deal for these people that have won the award. Fun to be a part of. All the big shots at Madison Square Garden are there, making speeches and everything. So we were dancing away. The trust me, well, I was trying to get him to dance, and he's looking at me, and I'm up there dancing. Like he's like, "What is wrong with you?" So it's a fun time, man. A fun time. Let me see here. What do you think of Emily Kaplan? What do I think of Emily Kaplan? I don't know. I obviously I should know who Emily Kaplan is. I do not know her. Yes, New York Times had. Yeah, I saw this the other day. Yeah, they had great writers cover the Rangers, like Larry Mifflin. Yeah, so they own the Atlantic, right? So they're just going to use the Atlantic articles, which makes sense. I already own it, so. Again, being good friends with Kevin Allen, like I really saw how that whole media world, the newspapers really changed over time, right? So, Emily, Danny, very shy. Interview you. Can't type today. So did Stan Fischler ever interview me? I guess is what Barry's you're asking. Yes. Yeah, many times with Stan. Actually, there's another guy that ripped me too. Just briefly. When I got traded, you try to get out to the new city right away. I had at the time was married. My wife had a son from my stepson from previous marriage. So there's some issues I had to deal with. So I was one day late, and he ripped into me like, he says, "Why wasn't late like that right away?" And he didn't. It wasn't his fault. He didn't know all the details. But I called the Rangers, or excuse me, the Kings, and made sure they knew what was going on. So I don't think I missed a game because I think I missed a practice where I got out there for the next game. So yes. Emily Kaplan is a reporter that interviews coaches during the. Okay. I remember I like to pass judgment. I like, you know what? I think sometimes it's easy for people to be critical of female reporters in like this male-dominated world, like the hockey world is. Because there's lots of male reporters. The guys don't do a very good job, but nobody says anything about it, right? Because they're female, then it's easy to say something about it. But no, I really don't have a comment about that at all. Danny Erickson trying to stir the pot. What did I like insult Tracy or something like that? It's like she just disappeared, right? Oh, it's difficult. What else is going on? I'm trying to think. Again, if you get a chance, please continue to follow us. I know you guys are already on Full Change podcast on all the podcast platforms. Please like, share, make a comment, preferably on Apple if you can. Helps us the most, but it doesn't have to be that way. Yeah, would you have enjoyed being mic'd up, Jimmy? Of course I would. Although, you know what? Like, I'm more open now. Like we talked about this before. Is that Tom Smith and I were talking about? I think we talked about it on the show. It's hard for like Tom Smith, for example, a big hockey fan, but he's kind of critical of the NHL, saying they don't do enough to promote the players and marketing and that kind of stuff. And I said, I don't really blame the NHL. It's the mentality of the players. We were brought up thinking, listen, you don't stand out. Like PK Subban is a great example. Great player, but he really hurt his career. Now, it may have helped him after his career because of the reputation he built as being colorful and everything. But as a player, even his own teammates would look. I know if I was sitting in the locker room with him, I could say, like, if he's a great guy and a really good player, I'd say, okay, but like, shut up. Don't do all this stuff that you're doing. That's the mentality of the players. It was back then, and maybe it's not so much that now, but it still is there. Like you look at Connor McDavid out in Edmonton, the most boring guy there. But I bet you he's a fun guy to hang out with. He's a fun guy. He's a mushroom, a fun person to hang out with. But you know, his job is not to be Mr. Entertainer. His job is to go and score goals, and that's the way he looks at it. That's the way people want him to look at it in the National Hockey League. So it's hard to market these guys because they won't say anything. They're just not going to do that. They say, no, I have to walk back into that locker room, and you know, my teammates are looking at me to be that leader, that team guy, and that doesn't include going out there acting goofy. So let me see here, Tom. That New Haven backline you played on was good. Guvermont, Danklock, Underdory, Kotze, and you're the best in the playoffs. So, thank you. That's very nice. Yeah, I appreciate you saying that, Jack. I really do. It was interesting. I think you brought up the other day. You spread that out over 80 games. I didn't realize. I felt really good about my game. We just finished playing for the national championship. That was my first shot at playing pro hockey. So I was all fired up and everything. But I tell you, like I think I said this last show, it really was an eye opener for me. I realized, man, I got to go back and get in shape. And it was good. I went back and I was running the hills and lifting weights twice a day and everything. Came back to camp next season in great shape, and it really helped. And again, being prepared, like getting that first. But for us, there's no internet, obviously, so we had no access to the NHL. I didn't know what it was like to be in an NHL. Like seriously, I would think, like, do these guys wear different underwear? Like they have gold underwear or something like that? This is how I looked at NHL players. I just thought, like, what's it going to be like? And I hope I get there. But once I do get there, what's it going to be like? And so it was, going there and coming. I first came to New York, was in the NHL, the Rangers locker room, met Phil Esposito, signed the contract a whole bit. So that whole thing was taken care of. Although it was still there a little bit, but that initial, like, oh my God, I'm in an NHL locker room, and that never happened before. And then Phil Esposito coming up and talking to me, like that again, those things already getting out of the way before the next training camp really made a big difference. So, let me see. Best reporter I've seen in a long time was that comedy bit SNL had on with MSG by Morgan Birds. I didn't see that. I didn't. Oh, that's cool. I didn't get to play with Frank Beaton very much. He was in New Haven when I went down there. I believe he was there. And that whole crew was entertaining, right? Because that's old like Slapshot. That's how it was. It was. I told people I got first practice. I got there, the New Haven Coliseum, and Jim Seaweed Petty, goaltender, was on the bench during practice, and he had a sign and a stick upside down, and he was a sign saying "local," whatever his number was, local 31 on strike. He wasn't going on for. I think he was just having fun. He might have been hungover or whatever it was, and so he was just sitting there. And I was like, oh. Like I said, getting on the bus, and they kicked me off the bus because I didn't have my own cooler of beer. Lance Nethery shooting the puck off my forehead in the first practice. It was it was it was for a while. I remember going, I didn't shop around. There's the road up from New York to New Haven. You go up 95, and on the side of the road there's a car dealership, Chevy dealer. Didn't shop around at all. Went in there, saw a Camaro Z28 T-tops and the whole bit. I said, that's what I'm buying. Didn't negotiate, just bought it. I think I wrote a check right away, and they gave me the car and drove off and finished the playoffs New Haven, then drove back up to Marquette, Michigan. So that was yeah. He was also is it George Plimpton? Remember the guys George Plimpton did books and everything. So he did a bunch of, like, he came out and was a goaltender for the Bruins. He's a Boston guy. I think he was a quarterback for the New England Patriots. Was a pitcher or catcher or somebody for the Red Sox. And Jim Petty was there in Boston. It was part of his book. He wrote about Jim because he was such a character. He had him in the book, and I thought, and again, came out after I thought that was cool. I know Jim Petty. Let's see, personnel stepped forward and said that we made a mistake bringing Laidlaw to the NHL ranks. Wow, Danny, that's just not nice. It's just not nice. Well, they did fire Freddie Sherrill my first year. I don't know if it was putting me on in front of the net in the power play or not, but yeah, I never did know why. I guess we weren't having a very good year. And Craig Patrick, again, the Patrick family had been, a big part of the Ranger organization. And Craig, after the Olympics, had been hired by the Rangers. But he didn't have any NHL experience at all. Craig is a great guy, very organized, very intelligent man. And then all of a sudden they fire everybody. They fired Freddie, GM, I can't remember who it was. There was GM at the time. It was one of the Freddie guys. And fired everybody, and Craig took over everything. And then we had that great round of the playoffs then too. That was fun. I mean, because Craig was a good guy. It's just like, hey, go play. He wasn't planning on coaching him as a career. In fact, I found out later from Craig that they wanted him to coach, and he said, nope, we're bringing Herb Brooks in next year. Well, that Sunday was good and had a hell of a plus. Yep. I don't think when you hear people say that Herb Brooks buried him, it's not that a coach ever buries a player. It's more like either he fits into what the coach wants or he doesn't. And then it's really more the GM then decide, okay, are we keeping this player in the organization then, or are we trading him? And I don't think the GM tries to bury a player. He may say, listen, I need to keep him in the minors because we need people to get called up. He's a good player to do that. I don't think I guess it's happened maybe in the past where a player gets buried, because of some grudge or whatever it is, but it's typically not, especially nowadays. And when I played, the general manager's job is to win. The coach's job is to win. They're getting wrapped up in some personal battle. Again, I guess there's been things that have happened, but let me see here. It must have pained Craig Patrick when he fired Herb Brooks. I don't know that. I've never had that conversation with Craig. I do remember sitting down. They brought me because, again, I was assistant captain. So Anders Hedberg had retired and he was now working in management. And they brought me in for lunch down the city. They'd fired fired Herb, and I think they'd already hired Ted Sater. And I remember it was kind of strange. And I love Craig to death. He's a fantastic person. He was great to me. But I remember him saying to me, you didn't want Herb to keep on coaching here, did you? Kind of figure out where I was and the whole thing. And I was one of Herbie's boys. So, well, Craig, yeah, I mean, I was tight with Herb. Yeah. But it already been done. And listen, when you're playing, again, I didn't really, as much as Herb, I look back and that was fantastic for me. I had a job to do. Now new coach is coming in, he's coaching. So I didn't have time to sit around and feel bad about the Herb situation. So that's the cool part of it. And that's the thing you talk about when you get traded too. When everybody else is getting traded, it's like, see you later. I got to get to work. But when you get traded, there was leaving and you're going, where's everybody going? Deb's back. Thank you. Oh my God. Whew. Man. You see here. Nothing against Tom, but this show isn't the same without all the girls. Jeez, some things you say to me sometimes, just my feelings. Let me see here. I wake up for an hour and 20 minutes here. Cam Connor never got a real shot as a Ranger and had a hell of a 82 plus with 4 goals. Finally got a chance in the tourist start. Yeah. And then when Herb came in, it was like the Rob McClanahan kind of guys, right? It just wasn't Cam's kind of, Cam wasn't one of Herb's kind of guys. As far like, you're right though. He was a great player, great team player, tough guy, added so much to the team. But again, that just wasn't that wasn't how Herb wanted to play. So, yeah, we got to get on this anymore and get together with you and everyone here. Yes. So we've got to get on this. So I'm assuming we got to pick a location. If everybody could do this as a favor to me, just kind of send me a DM or post it here, whatever it is, doesn't matter. Whatever you feel comfortable with. So let me know where you live, just the vicinity you live. So we try to pick some location that's centrally located. Again, for guys like Barry, that's up Cooperstown or Deb's out in the Midwest, it's different because unless you guys want to fly in, but it would be more, we could do it virtually as well. Have fun doing that. All right, everybody. Again, please go to the Full Change podcast on all podcast platforms, preferably Apple for us. That's the best for us. Like, share, make a comment. Hope you're enjoying them. A lot of fun to make. Like I said, we did the show recently with Ken Hitchcock. We did that yesterday. Fascinating show. It really changed my opinion of somebody. Really, it taught me to listen. I didn't know the guy. I was passing judgment on him, but very intelligent guy. There's a reason behind all the stuff he was doing something like that. Actually, he's very good friends with this guy, but he spoke very highly of Mike Babcock too, and talked about how with both those guys, listen, we get wrapped up in stuff as coaches, and we're so focused on trying to win that we don't realize the importance of being respectful to the players and thanking them for all the stuff they're doing. So hopefully Babcock has learned this, and he's a human being. JD's, I'm a huge fan of John Davidson's, obviously, and he's the president out there in Columbus. So obviously they've done their homework and got to the conclusion that Babcock had really learned a lot, because there's no question about how good of a coach he is. It's all the other stuff that came with him. So hope he does well. But again, hopefully everybody watches listens to the Full Change podcast on all the podcast platforms. And we'll see you next week. Hold on. Let me see here. Hold on. There's Tracy sighting. Tracy doesn't want to know where she lives. Yeah. Like she's pretending like I was busy. I wasn't paying attention, right? To Tom's show. We want to know where everybody lives, Tracy. So we're trying to get a get together. You may be too busy. Probably will be. You'll probably be rearranging your sock drawer or whatever, you're doing your hair, whatever it is. But everybody, have a great week. We'll talk to everybody next Thursday at 10 o'clock Eastern.